All right. I am coming to you from the weirdest place I've ever done a reading. You can see behind me. I'll just give you a little tour of this like bunker of sorts or storage room, I guess, but it's like there's like multiple doors of protection, basically soundproofness, because my girlfriend's here. Um, they all go to bed really early. To be honest, um, you know, they none of them. I'm not gonna say none of them work, but none of them work like I work. Like have the workload that I have, where it's like I don't have really an option. Like I need to get readings done. I can't not do it. I can't just, you know. And then I even did one during the day today, and I did a good job. But it feels way. I don't know. It's just not the same. And my brother, who's very like very logical. I'm just giving you a little monologue as I kind of move my way into this reading. He he basically was saying that he thinks that the intuition, which is the typical thing for him to say, is bullshit. And I don't even know what he was saying. It had more. It was some excuse, but I was like, like even if, well, I didn't say this, but like I thought about it a little bit. I was like, really, like even if you don't believe in intuition, you think that intuition doesn't exist and it's impossible for someone to have more intuition at night than during day. There's also the argument that each day we build ourselves up, you know, we build ourselves up, and that's kind of energetically, your brain, you make more, there's more synapses. So yeah, I don't know, just a little random monologue there, as I often do. So that get the clock out. So we'll see how this works out in here. I have like a makeshift desk. You can kind of see it. It's like this black thing with like old records from like the Beatles and stuff, and then this just random box that, hey, and I'm sitting on like this, like I guess it's like a old, really, really, really old yoga mat we've had since I was like a baby, basically. My eyes are red. I'm still jet lagged, but remember the thing with me is that I am never mentally tired. As long as I'm not intellectually slash mentally, cognitively tired, which it's very, very rare. Very, very rare. I am more than good to do an astrology reading. It's literally second nature to me. So, and just so you know, if I start doing a reading, which has happened only a number of times in my entire life, but let's say I start doing one, I'm like, yo, I'm not feeling this, I'm not feeling good. I'm just something's off. Um, I will just quit it after 10 minutes or something. Very rare though. So anyways, let's open this up. I was it's not a story worthy of telling, but basically like I had some confusion with two clients that had very similar names and really led to me. I mean, I wasn't about to redo it because obviously my brain was like, this chart looks really familiar. I think I did this like a week ago, that would have been super weird. Okay, so here you are. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for not pressing me and whatnot. I really do appreciate that. I wish everyone could be like that. Um, ooh, oh shit. I need to literally do this like right now, or I'm never gonna do it. Um, It takes 2 seconds. I need to change the colors of my sign because I keep confusing Gemini with Aquarius because they look so similar, right? Or like just the air signs in general. They just like at first glimpse, like I'm like, and I'm like, oh no. So screen colors, okay. So point colors. Let's go with whatever this is. No, that's not it. But yeah. So anyways, as I do this, we can, speak. I just changed it to something that's, yeah, even more noticeable. As a so we're speaking to a 28-degree Taurus rising, which is an exact sextile to my Sun and Mercury. So that's the connection. Um, another Singaporean, I believe that's the correct term. It's crazy how many people from Singapore I get. I don't know if it's me or if it's like astrology. Like, there's something, with me in Singapore. My best friend like grew up in Singapore, so like I just know like a random amount about the place. So that's fascinating. Maybe I'll go there one day, check it out for myself, even though like I know it's a pretty businessy place, but I know there's like amazing food and different things to do also. So I'm sure I'll check it out one day. But yeah, let's open this up. So Moon in Libra, Sun in exactly on the midheaven, glued to the midheaven, as I say, with Mercury retrograde, also in Aquarius, with the Venus in Capricorn, conjunct the South Node. Ooh. Then we have the yeah, so we got a lot of Venus energy, um, with the Libra moon and the Taurus rising, and we got Chiron in the first house too, so that's important. North Node in Pisces. Damn. All right. That's when you know it's for real. It's in the third house. Very interesting. So I just need to actually switch this back to the standard colors because this one's even worse. Point colors, let's just go traditional. And then it is sign text color. Oh, here it is. See, elements is what's been screwing me up. This should be good. Okay, so this one, no, this one's even worse. God. Okay, so this one has Gemini's blue, like the same color. This is worse. How about all black? Should I just do all black everything and just be like that? Aspects, I can't do all black. I'm just gonna try all black, everything, in a white background. And we'll see how this goes. Oh man. All right. I'll share the screen with you so you can see this mischief. So actually, this works better for me, these being an all black, but I need, what happened to my beautiful wheel? I think I'll remember. Where is it? It's wheel style, deck ruler. Mm, that wasn't it. It was one with the cons. I remember that. Let's just see what the name was. Maybe it changed because of the color. Whatever. I'm not gonna really worry about this right now. I just want to a little bit less. Ooh, this is so simple yet kind of interesting. This is what it should be, but it's lacking this ass. Maybe I just need to change. Um, wait, why is it? Okay, so what I'm really trying, all I want is this all black and this all black. Okay, well, whatever. This is fine as long as these are their own color. It's a different aesthetic. They're kind of cool. So yeah, let's talk. Um, mm, let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Load this up. Anyways, so Moon in Libra, Sun in on the midheaven. I mean, come on, that's special. That makes for a very, very strong sun. Um, the sun on the midheaven. The midheaven is the highest point in the sky. So imagine that. The moment of your birth, the sun was at its highest point. This is something that stars have, or that people who are seen by others as stars, if you want to take that, metaphorically or otherwise. It is a tremendous placement for not just popularity, not just like just for overall. It's just a good karmic placement. It's very good for success. Very, very good for success. Um, so that's important to talk about for sure. But one second, I need to go grab something from the room I'm actually staying in. But before I do that, the moon is in Libra. It has Mars on it. God, it's so much nicer. It's all black. Like what was confusing before was that these two, like Aquarius, and Libra, which are both air, they had like really similar colors, but like, it like was this weird. It was like this color, but it like was very like I don't know. It just kind of made them look very similar because it was very like there wasn't like it wasn't enough sharpness. But yeah. So these two obviously get along really well. I might have to stop talking because I'm gonna pass my brother real quick, but. Yeah, the energies they get along very well. Um, they're both air, both air. Give me one quick second. You can still hear me. I tried this earlier. Space. Less of a distance. Okay. Okay. Wait, did my microphone just shut off? Mute. Okay, let's test it. Test. Okay, we're good. Well, that's good to know. All right, let's get serious. Let's stay serious. Um, so yeah, basically, having your sun, which represents that, the masculine part of you. It obviously everyone knows their sun sign. Having it on an angle, right? Like on the midheaven of all angles is one of the like best placements you can have in astrology. Um, it's just like someone who just shines so bright. And it's 20, you see how it's 23, 23. So, when we talk about degree theory, I think that's when I talk about degree theory. I'm not sure if you're aware of what I mean by that, but just like, what's the significance of 23? I'm not into numerology. Not because I don't like it. I just I just don't know about it. I know people know about it. I would like to know about it. I just haven't, put in that work yet. But 23 is actually an Aquarius number because if you know, 22 degrees is the infamous Capricorn. Look at what comes after Capricorn, Aquarius. And that just adds, even more of that energy, of that collective energy, of that eccentric, individualistic energy. So a quick scan of your nodal axis, because that's my type of astrology, which I am self-taught, and I you know I have my own ideas of what's important in a chart. I focus a lot on the north node and south node because they ultimately represent what we are trying to strive for in this lifetime. And that's the north node, and the south node represents the been there, done that. So, in one quick second, I need to check my notes in your file because I did. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Okay, back to that. I look so right. I'm sorry. I promise I'm not on drugs. I just a little bit jet lagged. Not jet lag, just I could use another 8 hour. But I slept quite a bit last night. Anyways, enough sidetracking. So with the nodal axis here, it's very interesting because it is north node, right? So the mountain never climbed in past lives where you're trying to get in Cancer, south node in Capricorn. Now the south node also has Venus on it, and squares, which are very important here. We see that there is a square with Mars, right? Now, furthermore, there's also a square with the moon. So there's a massive nodal story going on here. The very interesting part is that the ruler of the North Node, so the ruling planet of the North Node, right? Of the symbol. It's not the North Node and South Node are not actual planets. They are I'm not gonna get into the astronomy of it, but it's based on the apogee of the moon, if I pronounce apogee correctly. And in essence, the ruling planet of Cancer is the moon, which is also squaring the North Node. Cancer is squaring the moon. So the ruling planet of the North Node is squaring the North Node. That's very significant. Very, very significant. And then you also have Mars. So you have a huge past life, like karmic story. And I try to figure out like kind of how you got to be how you are in this lifetime. What's the purpose? Sometimes I start from the start, sometimes I start from the back. I just go whatever way, you know, I'm being guided, I guess you could say. Now, North Node in Cancer. So first of all, I want to say that this, is about gender. Um, it's not uncommon for people who have, this nodal axis to have been in their last incarnation a different gender. It's not uncommon at all, and that they battle with not battle, but like where there's issues of it's about balancing the masculine and the feminine. But and I see this very clearly with the South Node in Capricorn with Venus conjunct it, that's in your sun on your midheaven. Those are two signs. I'm gonna make this article one day. I just haven't done it. I should probably make notes of it. Of like signs of good karma in a chart. And those are two for sure. Um, but then there's some difficulty, right? Because basically having Venus on your South Node in Capricorn, it makes me, it shows me that you achieved very, very high positions in society. And it's likely that that's happening again this life, right? Um, it could also speak to the father in this life, being someone who's very successful or powerful or something like that. And because the instinct, right? So the South Node in Capricorn, been there, done that. um, is there in the ninth. There could be like a kind of default mode, if you want to call it that, of just success. Of just like things like business, anything in that material realm. I can't believe it. Yeah, okay. I'm so happy I have this all in black. So with the North Node in Cancer, this is all about feminine energy. It's about um diving more into your feminine side in this lifetime, into your intuition, to your compassion, to your, nurturing instinct, if you want to call it that. So the difficulty here, though, is that there's very little supporting water in the chart, right? You have no Pisces, you have no Cancer, the North and South planet, as I said, and Scorpio, you have your Jupiter, but that's it's not it's you have the six inner planets, and then Jupiter's kind of a middle, so it's like it's not really like the six inners, like the big three plus Mercury, Venus, Mars. They have functions, very obvious psychological functions, right? So for this, um, you're trying to become more watery, but there just aren't the supporting energies just aren't there. So that means you have to go out and find them, which is a big indicator of what I like to call, in my style of karmic astrology, an advanced soul, someone who has taken on a big challenge. Because with all of this air and this you know a lot of air, like a very very air dominant chart, right? And then the Earth as the rising, and then just like everything is in air, air, air. Mercury retrograde, natal to Earth, Earth, air, air. So of these six personal planets, four in air, two in Earth. So lacking fire, lacking water. Um, how do I want to put this? So basically, when I see the square of a Libra moon already, right? So the moon is kind of like, you could say it's like what makes you happy. It's like how you feel comfort. It's what you need to feel secure. It's like your inner environment that your instinct. You know, so to have it in Libra, Libra moons are very relationship oriented typically. There's also, it's the balance. So people don't always think about it, but Libras, it's very sociable. And there's definitely an energy of it could be someone, it's very like, you know, like I said, very sociable, and in society, it's very like, it's an energy that can be very good for business. It can be very good for lots of things. But the thing is about an air moon, the moon is the emotions, right? And when you have your an air moon, it can make it difficult to be in touch with the emotions. And the North Node in Cancer, which is literally, it's the chart is basically begging you, it's asking you, it's saying you need to find a way to get in touch with your emotions in this lifetime. And air moons have this tendency to be more, like, I always give this example, like you have like the Cancer moon and the Libra moon, right? The same thing happens to both. And let's say the Cancer moon cries about it, deals with it, and then the energy kind of, it's taken care of. But with air moons, there can be a tendency to, like, I almost call it like an on-off switch of emotions. Like it's more about logic. Oftentimes, it's more about logic, and yeah, there can be like in that example, like they might not deal, that might be 7 months that they actually like, process and deal with that. So another thing about Libra is your moon sign, right? Which goes perfectly with your sun, Aquarius, right? They're both in the same element, two signs that get together really well. Is that there can be this sort of distance, right? Now I have to look at the aspects because you do have, Neptune not doing much actually, which would add more water. I mean, it's just, yeah, it sextiles the sun. But all in all, I would imagine that it's very easy, most likely, to be in this, Earth. You could think of Earth as like the material world, the consensus reality. You could put it like that, right? Air, is about communication, about seeing other people's perspectives. It's about intelligence, thought, right? And with the Libra moon, with this whole chart, how it's laid out, the planet ruling the moon is Venus in Capricorn on the South Node. There can be a tendency to choose logic over emotions, right? Because emotions are energies; they're in the body. Um, they have to be dealt with in that type of way, right? Like the example I said, um, releasing them, the stuck ones somehow. So when you're really, really in what I had an article about this not too long ago about being stuck in your South Node, right? I spoke about how oftentimes when that's the case, the individual feels almost like they don't necessarily feel like they're going their best direction, right? Like they don't feel like it might feel very familiar and there might be tons of success, but there can also be this feeling of like something, like I'm not going like not going. It's like this deep feeling like I'm not going in the direction I'm supposed to be going in, right? So with Libra Moon, as I was saying, and having Mars right on there, there's this other theme of indecisiveness. Libra Mars is known for being very indecisive. And there can also be issues with boundaries. Um, there can be issues with codependence, relying too much on relationships, sometimes to cover up, what's lacking in the individual. But yeah, all in all, Libra moons, they love beauty. They love balance. They love things they love peace, quiet. Um, they don't want to fight. And this is so weird, like how I'm positioned right now. And I do see Venus, is squared by Mars, Saturn, and Pluto. So it's a tough position to have. Because Pluto, where are you at? It's right there, yeah. So the nodes also square Pluto. Damn. The nodes are square the moon, Mars, Saturn, wow, and Pluto on one side. Okay. So lots of squares. So when I put that all together, I'm like, okay, the South Node ruler is so the South Node ruler is Saturn. It's square the South Node because Capricorn, your South Node, right? The been there, done that, is ruled by Saturn. So these are referred to in astrology as skip steps. And with the Capricorn skip steps, a lot of times it's about, I call it liquefying stuck emotional patterns, right? Cycles where through different reincarnations, there's different emotional tendencies that continue on and aren't dealt with, right? Now, I do have to say though that you do have Neptune in the eighth house, which will that does help a little bit, right? That does add. That's a very nice place to have Neptune. It's the house, it's in the house of Scorpio, so that will give this real interest, and it will help out a lot when it comes to intuition. Um, but with the squares, right, as I was saying, one could look at that and say that this person, that this individual, there's definitely like, some well, there's a lot. So with Pluto square, the node, the south node, that is about past life trauma. I actually have this placement, by the way, so I know it well. Um, unresolved past life trauma, usually around, like something that happened in a past life that you come into this life with that still affecting you. And we look at what node aspected it or last hit it before your birth, which may go backwards. So it would be, which one would it be? It would have been the north node. So it's resolved through the north node, the future. So through the work, the emotional work that you would do. Now, follow me here because this is a complicated chart. So with the north node in Cancer in the third house, this is very important. The third house is about communication. It's about the throat chakra, right? So what it's asking you is to open up the throat chakra and to find outlets through which you can express emotions, whether it's poetry, journaling, therapy, any kind of healing like that, right? Where you make an effort to really push yourself to express this, right? Now, I was talking about the Neptune though, because I want to say that does put you more in touch with your unconscious than most people, and it does help get someone to be more interested in things outside of the material reality, right? And it makes someone usually love to learn about all different spiritual topics. So that's a saving not saving grace because I don't want to like use those words, but it's definitely something that's helping with this, right? Because it gives some intuition and a desire to kind of like, especially with Jupiter and Scorpio, to dive deep into this area of life, these areas of life, the mysteries, the occult, the esoteric, the emotions, psychology, stuff like that. Jupiter in um, Scorpio is an indicator of a natural psychologist, right? So these two are huge helpers for the North Node. With that said, Neptune eighth house can be difficult because there can be relationships that are abusive sometimes on different levels. I'd say more psychological based on what I'm seeing here. So it's really important to like build a very solid self-image, and very important to have energetic boundaries, right? Um, there can be trust issues in relationships and issues around like betrayal, loss of trust in others. So it's a difficult placement. Um, so yeah, because like the eighth house is all about also other people and other people's resources. So it can add some confusion around cooperation in that sense too. Now, with that said, you also have Uranus there, which is another very, very strong, like eighth house Uranus people can have psychic abilities. So this is really helping out, this lack of water. Um, but back to the squares, right? As I was saying. So the Pluto one, it's like I said, it's speaking to to some trauma, right, from past life. And then you throw in Saturn, which is very close, 22 and 20. And I always think of that one as past life conditioning, like where I don't want to say being pushed away from God, but a tendency to be in situations, circumstances where you, I guess one could say, are conditioned and in a very, very material reality, right? To where you're not able to really access and like like an example would be being in a society or a family structure where anything related to spirituality is completely just out the window. It's nonsense. It's crazy, right? Now, then we add Mars, which is 2 degrees, and the moon, which is 8. But the moon, it's important, right? So it has a larger orb. So with Mars squaring the nodes, there's something around action and having acted either too much in the wrong way or not enough. And in this kind of image I have in my head, it feels as though the actions, the emphasis was way too much in that Capricornian get to the top, you know, um, success, like, and it can also make someone very perfectionist, right? It can make someone base their identity a lot on what they do rather than who they are within themselves, right? So, mm, so it's like the conscious desires, right? this is a good way of putting it, come into conflict with displacement with the purpose, which is the North Node in Cancer, which is about, like I said, opening up, speaking about emotions or writing about emotions, or finding ways to really get into it, get into them. And there can be this like battle between like this, like alternating between this desire to reach that higher purpose and then working against it, right? Because Mars, ego, drive, willpower, how, it's like the assertiveness function. Being at odds with the nodes, it kind of just it just shows that like it just this kind of like hustler, just like in this current 2022 reality, like it would be like, just like it would be someone who's just like a CEO type energy, to where the actions really, you know, make it so the individual is not able to, um, has a life path where they're not able to really like go into the emotional part of them. Also, with this, it could be like a lover that ultimately helps you with this resolution. So that's definitely, a high potential. Now with the moon in the nodes, oftentimes that's about the mother, but it can also just be woman in general. But it's really about the emotions and the idea of nurturance, as I was saying before, right? And there's this need to transform that, to really like re-look at how you nurture yourself, what's important to you, your core emotional values. Um, and it's not always the case, but it's possible that the mother in this lifetime, or whoever it's usually the mother, sometimes it's the father, the more nurturing figure, which is called the mother, could make things more difficult. In the sense of diving into the emotion. But at the same time, they also can be, the people who are like the impetus, who are the driving force behind actually going into that. For example, let's say the classic example of the person who's like I don't want to be anything like my mother in that way, or in certain ways, right? Um, and a lot of times, yeah, it's by creating difficult events and challenges that lead to soul growth. So yeah, working on vulnerability, how you nurture yourself and how you nurture other people. That's like one huge area that needs to be transformed. So like being a mother, for example, could be massive, right? Because that's like you putting yourself in a situation where you're able to nurture others, um, and then the right kind of relationship, for example, or friendship, even, or even therapy, or anything like that, where you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable and nurture. But that's a key is vulnerability. Like you've seen the whole thing of like there's the iceberg, right? And there's like that tiny percentage of what we're conscious of, and then there's all that massive um amount that we're unconscious about in regards to ourselves. So that's definitely highlighted. Um, so then when we talk more about Saturn, right? I talked about the conditioning. That can also be, the father, authority figure, um, which can kind of do the same thing, right? Be that kind of like be like it's like kind of being born into a situation where it's very evident by looking at them that, not to say you don't want to be like them, but that ultimately there are challenges and difficulties that are created through that, right? That push you to want to be different. Um, a lot of times it's like, inflexibility, attachment to old routines. Um, but because it's your South Node ruler, there is this real capacity for discipline, responsibility, um, that can help you with this. But there's a huge need to get out of that conditioned mind, narrative of how the world is, and to really open up to, the unknown, the esoteric, the forces that your eighth house, Neptune and Uranus and Jupiter and Scorpio, those give you the clues. You have clues to those where you're like, all right, there's more here. Um, so yeah, working on kind of how you see authority, um, how you see, and then just basically, yeah, conditioning how you see the world puts you, you like makes you kind of more able to go towards that North Node journey. Um, then with Pluto a little bit more. I think I said everything I can say about Pluto. What else can I say about Pluto? Yeah, it's just the trauma, and like a lot of times it's there's themes of power and powerlessness, and it really is asking you to look at, because sometimes people have this, there can be a tendency to like want to dominate, to want just ultimate power, and we see that also in other, just by the South Node being, where it is. Um, Another thing about this is that South Node in the ninth house in Capricorn can make one very, very, like they can be very philosophical, right? But also inflexible when it comes to allowing their philosophies and their grand, like, grand truth, or like main philosophies to be altered. So, there's a need to go out in the world and to experience so much, and to talk to so many different types of people and learn different types of philosophies and whatnot, right? So, yeah, that's important. So it's pretty clear. that when we think about, okay, so all this is sixth house Libra, that, just from a psychological perspective, that, there'd be an attachment to work and to the daily routine and you know, a drive to create beauty. It could be very artistic, and that could be also be a very, very good way about, to move towards this. But ultimately, North Node in Cancer, you're really trying to open up, and it can be difficult. So as an Aquarius sun, right, on the midheaven, it can, like I said, it can make it very, very easy, I guess you could say, to just take that route, because it's so familiar, that societal route of success and whatever it is, which isn't bad. I mean, it's in your chart, so it's like whatever that means to you, it's meant to happen. It's meant to be a part of you. But then when I look, I see Chiron squaring the sun. I think, okay, well, then that typically, in this situation relates to some kind of wounding, related to the father, some wound that's there, right? And having your first house Chiron with your ascendant there in Taurus, there can be a crisis of values. With all the Venus squares, right? Venus is about love, but ultimately it's about self-love. So Venus in Capricorns, it creates lots of difficulties, especially until for the first 30 years around, finding self-love. And we can go one by one, right? We start with, the fact that it squares Mars. Or do I want to start there? Because it squares Pluto, Saturn, and Mars, which is the closest? Saturn. So Venus in Capricorn already, right? It can make one. It can just create. I'm gonna go in camera mode. 1 second. I need to go back and forth. Hold on. It's so bright in this room. Show my red eyes. So with that, right, there can be a tendency to be very, very critical of oneself. Quite shy in relationships where they're formed rather slowly. Now, formed slowly yet enduring. And usually people who have this placement, nodes connected to Venus, there's like a lot of fate that plays into your relationships. Very, very fated. And it makes someone want like a very solid, very committed relationship, like where it's like I think I always give the metaphor of like when you're building a skyscraper or you're building a big building, you spend a lot of time on the foundations, right? So Venus and Capricorn, they want something that lasts. They don't want to like waste time with anything that like flimsy, right? It's also really, really good for money, right? It's a very, very, very good placement for money. However, with the squares, in the ninth house, conjunct the south node, right? Just like kind of taking things like in a vacuum here. It definitely, and this is it can create someone who has entered this lifetime with almost like an innate philosophy, if you want to call it that, right? So traveling is very important. You can have lots of beauty. You might meet I don't like saying this because it's like you're born in 82, so there is a high chance of you being married, but potentially being married to someone foreign or someone who has a different worldview than you, someone who's able to challenge you, right? Who's different and who has a different or basically we're like it's important to have like the philosophical outlook on life be like important to both people, right? Um, but the square with Pluto can make someone very, there can be like difficulty curbing one's desires in relationships. Meaning it can make with the Libra moon someone very relationship obsessed. Um, and Venus and Pluto, like I have this one too, so it's like it can be very very tricky for the especially for the beginning of life because it can make someone with the Pluto, and I'll talk about this Pluto and Saturn kind of interchangeably, but with the Pluto, it can kind of create someone who until they really really learn that self-love, that true self-acceptance, they can go for like the more dark types of people in love, um and they can fall really really fast, um and in a sense, being an Aquarius does help with this, right? Because a lot of times there is kind of these rose-colored glasses that can come up, but being Aquarius sun, that Aquarius is known for its detachment, right? It's known for being very, very, very like it's the funniest, not funny, it's a very interesting thing about Aquarius is that they can be so humanitarian, right? They can be so like attached, like causes they care about, but then when it comes to interpersonal relationships, they can be very aloof. Something in my eye. But yeah, that's the thing with Venus square Pluto is it is another like karmic push for you to dive into your shadow, to dive into your emotions, right? To dive into all that the chart's asking you for around self-worth, you know. So a big thing with that comes around finding purpose. And this can create lots of, feelings of just real intensity in relationships, real intensity and difficulty when it comes to boundaries, right? Having the Libra moon, like I said, can make someone very like they'll accept things they shouldn't accept. So finding that self-love, it's I always talk about self-compassion is being like treating yourself how you would treat a best friend, you know. And it's difficult for Venus and Capricorn people. So yeah, it does definitely usually complicates the close relationships. And what can happen is that there can be the lower side of Scorpio, like once someone you're like the person with this aspect attracted to someone, it's very fast, it's very intense, and a lot of times it's too much for people, right? It can be overbearing, too much too fast. But this is usually when you're young, because this can become all squares are meant to become superpowers, right? So with age, um, it can be transformed into like someone who is like it's like the most like passionate, you know, type of relationship. And it can combine well. The Aquarius sun can help this because it can kind of push away some of that, like if you were a Pisces like me, I used to really struggle with this one. It can kind of add adds some needed coolness and some needed distance, right? But the core essence of the Venus square Pluto is control. And when one doesn't have that real feeling of like identity, self-love, they can use different tactics, whether it's manipulation, if they feel insecure, or worried, that the relationship will end, guilt tripping, possessiveness, things like that, to try to like force someone to stay with them, but that always, ends bad, right? Um, and leads to lots of pain and whatnot, right? But it's really through those relationships that self-awareness, right, comes. And it's all about looking. Remember, Cancer North Node is also about, what's my role? I literally wrote about high and low vibe Cancer today. So it's like, what's my role in this? Like the low vibe Cancer shifts the responsibility on someone else. The high vibe is like, okay, even if the other person was the one who did the bad things, it's like looking at like, okay, well, like what role did I play to get into this, right? Um, and it's always the same with this one, right? It's like all about death, rebirth, and transformation of self-love. And the painful part is when the realization comes that self-love is the issue, right? That unconditional love that and approval that you seek comes once that self-love arrives, right? And as I was saying before, like before that comes, a lot of times, Pluto represents like the darkness, right? This thing that it's so annoying. So it can make someone attracted to, like, yeah, dangerous partners who mistreat them. And it comes from like this subconscious idea, right? Or attracting these types subconsciously because of poor self-image. So then when we talk about Venus and Saturn, this is one of the most challenging aspects of astrology, right? Both of them are, but Saturn is really a really difficult one. Because obviously in life, love and happiness are two, two of the most important things. But with this, it makes, especially the first 30 years, it makes it really, really difficult to find that. It's like that feeling of being denied what you want most. So, it can bring sorrow and love. Also, it can bring like bad habits, sometimes laziness, although I don't see that in the rest of your chart. But it really starts at the core essence of Saturn Venus. I would say it's self-esteem, which goes back to your Chiron in Taurus, self-image, right? So doing things like yoga, for example, is a great way to get in the body, and meditation, right? Get outside the monkey mind and into the heart. But yeah, a lot of times people who have this, they feel like some rejection or isolation in an early age. Now, if I tie all this together, I'm like, okay, you have natal Mercury retrograde, which is very rare, right? So people who have that, they typically think they're more right brain, they're more artistic, right? They're like, they in a past life, they didn't use their cognitive ability. um they didn't speak and think in a way that was conducive to their highest growth. So in this life, it's the energy gets pushed more within, right, with the Mercury retrograde. And they can often be misunderstood. Sometimes they can be looked at as less intelligent than they are, just because they have a different learning process. So with this, going back to this point, it's really like how much love you receive from your parents, especially the father with this one, is just so important because it connects perfectly with the romantic relationships, right? There definitely would have been a need for like lots of encouragement and support, just different things like that to boost the self-esteem. Oftentimes there's like criticism, abuse, perfectionism, like where there's like an internalized thought of like I'm only valuable if I do this or if I achieve this or that, right? So yeah, there can be like depression that comes from this one. It's very common. But as I was saying, squares are challenges. They're not sentences, right? They're all about opportunities to improve. And this is one, like I said, it's all about self-worth. And because your chart is so intense in the sense that like it's like throwing these circumstances at you that almost, I don't want to say force you to change, but they make it so obvious that like what the issue is, right? That there is that the need for that healing. And it gets way better with age. Everything's Saturn, so 30 after 30, way better. Um, and often it's the case that people, their self-worth and self-love like gets higher and higher with age. Lots of successful people have Saturn squares with Venus or Mars. Like an example is like the person who you know says, "Hey, I want to be a musician," but their family's like, "No, you can't sing, right? You don't have a good voice," and it hurts them. But then they work their ass off, right? And they find whatever that thing is, you know, or those things. So, very important for you, from a more psychological sense, is looking at interjects, looking at the negative messaging, the negative, the any kind of like limiting self beliefs you might have, that you reinforce. And then when it comes to boundaries, it's like allowing or not allowing, these criticisms and rejections to get to you, to not be guided by like other people's view of you. So like positive affirmations, like I am worthy of love or anything like that. It's like a complete reprogramming of the internal dialogue. That's why meditation is so powerful in meditating and journaling together, right? Is a great idea. And yeah, like repeating affirmations to yourself, all that kind of stuff. Because like literally, like when that more positive self image is projected, that's where like the beauty of this comes in. Venus and Saturn is linked to long term relationships that last, and Venus and Pluto is linked to with Saturn to relationships that have this level of intensity yet power in transformation. It's transformative relationships, and because you have South Node, right, which is fate on Venus, they will be very fated. Um, so it makes me think that the people will enter your life, but you can't rely on these people. It has to come from within, which is hard for Libra Moon. um, what else? Yeah, so like Venus, Saturn can make someone like when it comes to vulnerability, like it can make that really difficult, like expressing love, um, affection. So being able to do that for yourself, it then it then gets externalized outwardly. I've noticed with this one, that with this kind of configuration, that's often like lots of trial, like kind of trial and error with relationships until the person gets it right. But when they get it right, they really get it right. Um, so then there was, what was the other one? The other one was Venus and Mars. So, okay, so Mars is in Libra. So Mars in Libra is very, very indecisive, right? Mars and Libra people need to have a set of values. They need to borrow from the opposite sign of Libra, which is Aries, which is all about doing, assertiveness, right? But also it goes back to the Chiron, which, you know, you're rising in Taurus, which is a good rising sign, by the way, just so you know. It makes one have this beauty and this energy that like people feel it, this real groundedness, right? It really makes people feel at ease around them. And they're usually very, you know, good looking people often. And I don't mean good looking, I should have said attractive, because like I don't think of this as physical, although, you know, it usually is Taurus, but like energetically, right? But Venus and Mars square can bring in relationships lots of like love hate feelings, right? Very intense kind of love hate back and forth. Um, like where there's like any little irritation can escalate to like a big fight. Um, but then it can just kind of like slow down just as fast as it came up, right? But there's a big need to kind of communicate, which this brings me to your Mercury, right? Where Mercury in retrograde, you spend the first part of your life really in your head more analytical of like how do I like and sometimes there's over analysis of like how do I want to come across? How do I want to communicate? And you can be so good in the abstract in the deep. And this is actually where having all this air really helps because like I said, air is communication, right? Um so having like really, really honest and vulnerable communication is massive. Um But really, the main thing with this one is gaining self control over like the more volatile kind of parts of oneself, right? And just being, like I said, many times, just like open and honest about deep feelings. And that leads to someone being able to, you know, have a very stable, like, there's spiders in here. um, you know, stable, long lasting relationships. So you know, this would be difficult more this becomes more difficult if the parents relationship was full of conflict. But when I look at the sun and the moon, they're both in air, so that typically is a good indicator of the parents having a good relationship typically with each other. If your, you know, your sun, your moon are in the same element, it's a very good one for you and for them. um So yeah, like an understanding partner who isn't like a pushover or weak or submissive is really, really helpful. Um, and also it goes back to like, you know, physically creating things like art, you know, how that can like having that can be very, very just amazing for just completely shifting the energy. So also like group activities, you know, friends, which Aquarius, you know, in Libra is all about. Air is all about friends. So that is, you know, an area where one, you know, being a Taurus rising usually is quite good for, um, I don't want to say popularity, but definitely helps attract people to you on, whatever level. So your moon, as I said, it doesn't, it has the square, but it's not like that kind of a square with the nodes. So it's not badly aspected, which is good. If you have like the most difficult aspects are the moon ones, the outer planets. The sun also has some nice aspects, really nice ones. It just has one difficult one. Um, with the Chiron, as I said before, there's difficult, it's usually around the childhood wound where there's like difficulty when it comes to shining, like really like finding that purpose, which could be a healer, honestly. Um, a lot of times connected with the father, as I said, and it makes one lack confidence. Um, loneliness is a theme that can show up with a lot of these aspects, but it's really the that wound itself that can be the source, of higher understanding. Um, and it gives all this energy, just gives so much determination and strength, right? Um, and this real ability to help yourself, but also help others. And that's like a key here is the more you can help other people, you have a chart of someone. It's a very interesting chart. It's like very multifaceted. But yeah, it definitely gives because of the nature of it. It can really give a lot of empathy towards other people and their suffering, and it can make someone, a healer once they've gone through their own, like really fully gone through it on their own. They have the ability, the resources, the understanding to assist other people in that. Now when we go more on your Chiron, the first house, it feels to a lot of people like when they actually fully try to be themselves, they get rejected, usually earlier in life, right? Um, so yeah, either emotionally, physically, like yeah, just wounding. It's first house, so first house Chiron, there could be like physical wounding, that kind of thing potentially. Um, but yeah, it's frustrating. Like people, that clients that have had that I've talked to, they do describe it often as like, when they're really being themselves, like they almost feel like they have to like create like walls and walk on eggshells in different situations, right? And it all goes back to that Mercury in Aquarius. This is like a huge part of your chart. Is Mercury in Aquarius is like the genius. It's like a very genius placement. When I say genius, I mean someone who thinks outside the box, who thinks differently. So if you grew up in a very like very left brain, logical kind of like environment, you would be someone who would be questioning things and very rebellious with your thought process, right? Um, and that could have been the source of a lot, of the difficulty. Um, but going back to Chiron, finish talking about that. As I said in Taurus, it's about values, the crisis of values, right? And self worth, as I've spoken about, right? And a lot of times, people who have this, they'll try to especially when younger, overcompensate by either like if doing really really good in school, getting the best job, making the most money, all these kind of external things, right? Possessions, money, all that. There can also be a distrust for the body, someone who doesn't like their body, doesn't find themselves beautiful, right? And the Venus squares can do that. So it's like a journey to really find that on like the physical level, also energetic physical level. And really learning to rely on your body, rely on your intuition when you feel, like to really rely on that. But like you have two indicators in your chart that I like to call download indicators. So download, I think of download as like when you're sitting and you just know something. Just like you don't know how you know it, but you just know it, right? And it's more about the essence with your Mercury than the details, which can be frustrating, to try to, like, when you know something to be true, it can be really frustrating to try to like explain it like in a logical way, because lots of stuff that logic just doesn't work. So let's see, does it make any aspects? And it aspects Uranus, so that adds even more like genius, right? Potential genius. And it's a close one too, because Uranus, the ruler, the ruling planet of your mind, your Mercury, Uranus. So um it adds to that, and it can make one super, someone who speaks very fast, um someone basically, someone who is ahead of their time, who thinks ahead of their time, very inventive, very creative, but misunderstood often. And that's kind of what Aquarius is, right? A lot of times Aquarius people feel misunderstood. And there's that option of just shutting that down, but ultimately not feeling fulfilled, or leaning into that. So then that brings the next question. How does that relate to the North Node journey, which is ultimately what this is all about, right? Well, Aquarius, one of the gifts of being an Aquarius is not caring what other people think of you often. Not all the time, but high vibe Aquarius, in my opinion, are here to be shining examples. And I think that's why you have this sign. I believe that we have that, the sun sign we get in this lifetime is there's a reason to it, right? Um, it's because in past life you were in this, you were more in that conditioned mind, right? You didn't question things enough. You took the path more traveled. In this life, you're meant to take the path less traveled. And it can take time. There can be midheaven, like career changes for sure. Not. I'm not saying like they'll for sure happen, but you can be the type of person that goes through many different career changes, tries lots of different things. But ultimately, it's really about being ingenious in what you do, doing it different and original in your own way. You want to be your own boss. Like, and it's usually a very unconventional career path, dharma, and it takes time. Like 11th house Aquarius, it often takes time for it to shine, for it to really really click, and lots of trial and error. So one key is to not look at the past, that the moments or whatever that that bring you shame or whatever. It's to just have that fresh start, that ability to just be like, everything that happened to me, there's a reason to it. There's a reason for it. It's linked to this journey, right? So in this case, it's really about being able to each day wake up and say, each day is a new lifetime. It's a new chance for everything, and to be grateful for everything that's happened, like everything that's pushed you into. I mean, if you're getting a reading with me, I haven't looked at any photos. You have no idea what you look like. I know nothing about you. I purposely do this. Like, I don't want to know anything. Um, but like, people who get readings with me, there's a reason that they're pulled to me, it's very rare that, like, I feel like I attract people who are really seeking answers, because, my content or whatever it is about me, it is very like, I don't know. I've heard it described as honest and intense. I don't know. And I think people who are really really ready to take that step, that's they seek out that reading. So yeah, also with midheaven Aquarius, like really wanting to make a contribution to society, to humanity through what you do, and being cool with, admitting, like, if you're on a path that's not like exactly kind of helping you get to this place of and by the way, like I'll finish my statement. Like this getting to this North Node journey, like, you can switch, and your sun's on the midheaven, so you have this amazing power to just be seen, like, very, very positively. Um, right? Very, like, to be seen in a way that's very positive. Very yeah, it's a really good indicator of success, and someone who can just kind of, like, lots of very famous or successful people have this, right? Um, People who can just, when they put their mind to something, just do it. Um, but what the difficulty though is that it adds another Capricornian energy, because it's 10,000 Capricorn, so your sun is in Aquarius, is in the Capricorn house, so it makes you very Saturnian. So that's the opposite of what you're trying to go towards, right? So it's like, how can you find a career that empowers you? And maybe you found it. I don't know. Like, I would read you if you were born in 1990, 95, 96, 68, 72. I'd read you the same, as long as you're not a kid or a teen. Um, so remember, these are all probabilities. But yeah, it's really like about finding a dharma, a career, which you're really meant to shine in that area, you know? But that, finding one that still allows you to access that north node. But then there's so many possibilities, right? So imagine this. Imagine you're very successful at what you do, right? It's very, like, different. It's like kind of cutting edge. It's like very inventive, ahead of your time, or just like something that's like very original, right? But then you have kids. So you have your career, which takes care of a lot of the parts of your chart that are more Saturnian. But then, your children are able to kind of open up that inner child within yourself. So that's a possibility. So, like, I'm not trying to tell you, like, like, quit whatever you have going on and do a charity, or just only do charity. No, I'm just saying that, there's great potential and power for you to really do whatever you want, you know? But, like, another thing about Sun Midheaven people is that they do want to shine, like they want to leave a legacy, um, like being in the limelight. A lot of politicians and powerful people have this, right? It's very, very ambitious. So, and it makes the reputation very important to the person. But it is a very fortunate position overall, and usually people get lots of support, um, and especially when they're heading in that right direction, that's in line with their dharma, their highest dharma, they get this support that helps them kind of get to where they need to get. But it's really about getting past any self-limiting beliefs of, like, being able to do it, which, lacking the fire, when you lack fire in a chart, it can make it so fire's that passion that just says, I'm going to do this, go, 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 right? So lacking that can be difficult. But because you have Mars and wait, you have Mars and Pluto together, right? Um, that gives you this really, really good ability. How much they're separated by 8, right? Yeah, so it's not that tight, but that makes one very resourceful. So that makes it so, like, when you do, like, kind of figure out, like, this is what I want to do, you're able, you're able to just go, and then with the earth, able to kind of have that staying power, and lots of like a huge like energy reserve when needed. But also another thing with Mars Pluto is there can be a volcanic temper. But yeah, and like there's also, I don't really like talking about sexuality, but like there are indicators of that in this chart of like strong desires in that area. That's kind of how far I really don't like talking about that, like as a male with more female clients. I always kind of feel weird about talking about that, but I like when I do talk about it, I want it to relate to something, right? Because it does relate to like the whole relationship thing, right? Where it's like your descendants in Virgo, so you're in your series is close to your descendants, so it's like in the seventh house. There's definitely like uh you definitely feel nurtured, and you like to nurture by the things you do. Um, and Sirius seventh house, it's someone who loves to be cared for and care for their partner. Um, and there's also once again like a potential for codependency, in relying too much on your partner for things that you need to handle yourself, right? So, in Scorpio, Sirius in Scorpio, it makes someone feel very cared for, very nurtured when they're loved, and when they also love in a very focused, intense type of way, where all the attention's on you, not like in a narcissistic way, but like very like, you know, and it also makes someone very, very emotionally committed to the person they choose. But the key is, and I think this goes for everyone, right? Especially with this energy in your chart, is to make sure that that relationship is a transformative one, that it's not holding you back in the past, right? Um, that you're able to cry if you need to, that you're able to basically just like someone who gets you on that level with the Mercury retrograde, right? Um, Definitely like a very deep, intelligent person. But yeah, there can be shyness and stuff like that. So yeah, someone like really like with descendant in Virgo, it's like, or Virgo Scorpio, I mean, just someone that you feel like you can really just tell everything to, someone that you can that you can share your deepest fears or secrets or all that, and trust and know that they're not going to switch up on you. And then you have Jupiter in the seventh house. What a beautiful place that is. So you have Venus on the south node, which I said is like very karmic with your love relationships, and it creates that energy. And then you have Jupiter seventh house in Scorpio. So I already talked about Jupiter in Scorpio, that intense search for truth. Once again, there is also like a strong desire for the deepest kind of like sexual union, but also like kind of coming together like in every way, like being one. But like it's also about like that's all good, and that's all good until it takes over your life. So it's like there's also a need to really be your own person, really be your own person, and not be in a relationship that like your whole birth chart goes away. Because like if you're in a relationship, I'd highly suggest getting a compatibility reading, because I could literally tell you um you know about that relationship, and about how both partners, like there's this thing called the composite chart, which is you take two charts, you put them together, and it's like an energetic baby. And then there's synastry, like if your sun's, square his moon or whatever, things like that. It's a beautiful reading. It's the only reading that I do research for, because it's there's so many variables, so much that goes into it. I love doing them. If you're interested in that, message me first, because I would give you like a big deduction. But with Jupiter seventh house, that is luck. Jupiter is expansion and luck. So I love this for you, right? Because that makes someone want to expand and have a higher perspective through their relationships, right? So they'll seek out partner. And also it gives luck, lots of luck. I swear, every single person I've ever talked to that has seventh house Jupiter. Now you do have some difficult Venus aspects, remember, but it usually gives um, you know, beneficial relationships where the person, if I ask them, like, do you feel, and maybe it's, for you, like with the Venus and Saturn, maybe it wasn't till, your Saturn return like around 30. But like, when I ask people, do you feel like you're very lucky with your partners? They say, yeah. Right. So it's like, um, yeah, it's about like developing philosophy within relationships, like your philosophy, your truth, remember? Um, and it can also make one attract more spiritually inclined partners. It doesn't mean like spirituality to me is just a word that is someone who's looking to grow and who's open-minded, right? And who's willing to have a mutable mind, and be wrong and see things differently. But usually, yeah, Jupiter Sun has the relationships that are beneficial for the life for that person in their life. So let's see. Um, mhm, okay. Then the sun trines Saturn? No, I'm not seeing that correctly. Yes, I am. Sun trines Mars and Saturn. Yeah. So basically, that just like adds more of that kind of like career, like ability to just like manifest and work hard and have, it actually really helps with self-confidence. So this is one that's actually helping with that, and with being a very responsible person, organized. And it's sixth house, so it's like, you can, you know work really well to achieve your goals. But this is a huge thing with health astrology, is that you have three malefics in the sixth. So if you're overworking yourself, there's going to be a huge link between your physical health and your emotional health, right? Huge link. So burning yourself out is not it. So it's important to your physical health, emotional, every kind of health you can think of, um, to have a daily routine, sixth house daily routine. That's where all these planets are. That's conducive to your North Node in Cancer in the third house. So, being able to communicate about your emotions briefly, right? Like I don't know how else I could say that. Also, third house is siblings. So if there's anything, with siblings, um, that's important karmically, that could be a theme too. But yeah, it's really also about just leaving behind, just belief systems from past lives, like I said before, right? And yeah. So another thing about North Node in Cancer, it's overcoming like a lot of inner pride also, right? And being able to tolerate like your own failures, that perfectionism thing, right? We keep talking about. And people who have South Node in Capricorn, sometimes they can make things harder than they need to be, because they have to like work really hard in past lives to earn people's respect. Um, so yeah, once again, it's all about being humble and just honest with emotional expression. Um, and being able to nurture other people with you know with your wisdom, with your honest, true to yourself wisdom. And you can be an artist. Honestly, you could literally be an artist, um, in some type of way. And okay, so let's see. So Vertex sixth house in Libra. I mean, that would to me would indicate that it's in your relationships. These very destined relationships that you can that might not always be so like smooth, but as I've talked about, there can be some tumultuousness to them, some real ups and downs. But those are the keys to that's where you really find the growth. You um you can even be business partnerships. Any kind of partnerships. So yeah, like these relationships that are difficult can open up your worldview and give you a way of seeing the world in ways you didn't see it before. And remember, for you, it's all about increasing that and yeah, leaning into Cancer. And Vertex sixth house is all about service. Your doorway to higher awareness is through service. I see this so much in my clients, right? Um, So yeah, being willing to help people, whether it's through your work or just in your daily life, right? Giving freely without expecting something back in return. So that's huge. But it can also be something like being a healer, or like a psychotherapist, a doctor, medicine, like all the like anything like that where you're really like helping people is huge. And that's actually, when we think about it, yeah, any kind of like area of service, you know, area of life that's like a service to mankind, opens up that door for you to to kind of move forward. And it also, Vertex Six House, I always want to talk about animals, how they can be very healing for you. Um, Now, anti-vertex would be in the 12th house, which gives you like a potential for psychic ability, something that has to be believed in yourself, but that also has to be developed, right? And when the more you're of service, the more that psychic ability, that intuition, which ultimately leads to self love, really, self love and self understanding. So being of service is really like all over your chart, and a healer, whatever you want to call it. Um, just doing things to help, but not for personal gain. Like really, really just like only if you really feel called to it. Aquariuses usually do. Um, okay, Mercury in the 10th house by itself can just make someone where their career, like communication, plays a role in their career in some way. Sharing your thoughts and ideas, stuff like that. And yeah, I already talked about the Aquarius, just you know, original ideas and all that. Um, the enjoying like exchanging ideas with other people that think like you, groups of people. And usually it makes someone that rebels against kind of old ways of thinking that they don't agree with, which yeah. So with that said, Sun in the 10th, talked about that, but it's basically just like, like I said, someone who likes to make their mark on the world. It's on the midheaven, so it's even further than that, through their profession. And like I said, a lot of times, like I've had people who had the same marker whose parents were like high politicians. I can't say who, but like I've had it enough times to kind of have the idea that when the sun's on the midheaven, a lot of times they're being born into a nice family, and yeah, being, people in high places can benefit, they can benefit them, and yeah, a prominent position in society is usually follows it. So okay, we talked about that. Venus in the ninth house also gives like that urge to really understand the world, understand truth. The three questions, where do we come from? Who, like, three questions. What are we doing? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Why are we here? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Right. It's also really good for like travel, higher education, stuff like that, spirituality, and yeah, it's connected to your south node. So this could also be any kind of cycle you have in love is completely connected to your past lives. So this whole thing about self-love and self-worth, you've been given this chart with this Aquarius energy, and it's basically like, all right, you're dealing with a lot of karma, right? And there's still going to be inclinations to want to fit in and to not want to be different. But as an Aquarius, and even being a Taurus rising is usually quite traditional, likes to kind of keep things the same and not really shake the boat. But Aquarius is the sign that likes to shake the boat, that likes to go the other way. So I'm very curious. I think you got a follow up. Did you get a follow up? Let me check. Just the reading. Well, I highly suggest a follow up and current astrology reading. That's what nearly everyone does, which is basically, and I would give you a very good price for that. It's follow up is an hour where we talk. It's obviously all live, and it's not like shown to anyone, obviously, but basically what we're doing, first hour follow up, we talk about everything in the reading, just the natal chart, which is the book of your life, never changes. You get done once, it's done. You can save this forever. You can watch it in 10 years, 20 years, whatever. But then the current astrology, that's the astrology, the current chapter, and we connect what's in the natal with the current weather. And every time I've done this, I started doing this like 3 months ago. There's always just insane synchronicities, and it's usually like around 3 hours. It's usually 350 for the current astrology. I'm down to give it for 250, and the follow up's usually 150. I'm down to give that full session for 360. Yeah. So massive reduction. So yeah, 360 would be the cost for follow up and current astrology. And if you want to just do the follow up, just message me, and figure it out. And that would just be like an hour of us kind of talking about just this. So yeah, then Palace, in Libra and the sixth, that's just like the ultimate like it's very good for intelligence, very good for seeing both sides, for seeing both like different sides of the you know different perspectives, different sides of the story, bringing like opposing parties together. And then in the sixth, it's just very good for like being a healer and having like a good structure in your life. Which your moon's there too, moon in the sixth, so that makes one it makes health, whether like all spiritual, emotional, physical, all that, intellectual, not health, but just like in general, like all those are very massive focuses in your life. Um, and it's really, I think it's about like the emotional, is the focus. And how, some people, sixth house moon people, like they really care for themselves, right? Um, and they want that day-to-day life to be dialed in. So yeah, very good for healers for sure. So yeah, there can be like doctors can have that. I've noticed. Um, and yeah, even Mars and Libra at its highest is like there's definitely like you know indecisiveness and lack of boundaries at times, and it's really, like I said, really important to have that value system, like this almost like this is what I stand for, and you make your decisions based off of that. This list. And I was telling someone in a reading earlier, like I want you to make a list of your self-limiting beliefs, your interjects, like meditate on them, and then another list of like the amazing parts of yourself, right? And kind of bring them together, and also like but like you really have to go deep within yourself to see like what beliefs you have of yourself. And if you, I do astrological counseling. That's something I do. I have 2 master's degrees in psychology. I can, if you need me for anything, I can help you. I'm very very good with this type of work with astrological counseling, and I think I have like one one or two spots open, and those are bought in packages. So yeah, I'm just kind of telling you, I don't really like advertise all the services. I think some people think I just do nail charts, but I do a lot more than that. But that's kind of how you get in with me, is getting the nail chart. And then everything else, like it's way different after the nail chart there's a longer wait. But if someone's to get you know, I also teach astrology, but like, like the counseling or whatever, or even like the session I referred to, I schedule it and we take care of it. Rather, fast. I guess schedule it. My lips are getting chappy. So yeah, anyways, and also Black Moon Lilith 8th house in Sag. So this, you definitely need to protect yourself spiritually. Um, and really make sure that you have the right people around you. It's very important. 8th house, 12th house, 4th house, Black and Lilith can be, there can be like spiritual attacks, things like that. So just making sure that you're in the right environments, and not allowing these like darker elements of society into your life. Um, Especially like with close relationships. So yeah. Um, but really it's about like, once again, facing the depths of your own darkness, right? Of your own fears. um and yeah, just the esoteric, occult, spirituality, all that stuff. um yeah, the undercurrents at play in your life, and not blaming others. And then when it's in Sagittarius, it's like, okay, that's like someone who might throw themselves into all these new ventures and kind of be a little bit like, you know, just putting them like Superman's or Superwoman syndrome, just like there's a need for like also some self-restraint. And also with Black Moon in Sagittarius, I think of it, and this isn't a planet, this is just you at your lowest vibration. Like, so like it's like you at your, like when you're at your lowest. So in Sag, it's like, what's the shadow Sag? It's that, but it's like what I said about just like spreading yourself too thin, but also it's about being dogmatic, enforcing your philosophies on other people. So once again, it goes back to that need, 3rd house North Node, to to be open to hearing other people out, and to really really allowing your worldview to expand. um let's say Yeah. So yeah, just listening, like really just listening. And that's another thing about North Node and Cancer. It's listening, you know? That's why I think like something like psychotherapy, or like a coach, like something like that, because you do have Venus in the ninth, which is, like I said, and that's also really good for higher education and part of fortune there too. You thrive in those situations. So if you were in that thought of like, I want to try something new in my life, like it would be a breeze for you, you know? And you have all that sixth house, you just have that drive. But really, like Saturn, Pluto in the sixth, I always think of that as like someone who there's like this massive attachment between their, you know, their daily routines and their health, and you know, there needs to be that closeness between you and your highest goal, Cancer, emotions, feeling that. I mean, Pisces is more of that like empathy and that closeness and that connection with everything, but it's also a water sign, Cancer. So it's similar, you know, like really feeling like you're here and you're connecting with people on a deep level. Um, so like being like a psychotherapist, for example, is like, or like doing something in that field, or even astrology, you know, it's an amazing thing because you really get to like to connect and have that help, which I think the North Node and even Libra moons, Libra is about, like, this is a Libra relationship, right? Or if we were talking live, it's about clients, right? So like having all that Libra energy is super good for if you were ever to do something. And by the way, I'm not, if you're like, I know there's a high chance that you're very dialed in what you're doing career wise right now. I'm not telling you to change your career. I'm just telling you what the chart says, just so you know objectively what I'm seeing, and you can literally make what you want out of it, right? Um, but yeah, just that relationship between mind and body is huge, and like yeah, there can be like dramatic changes to the health, and yeah, just recognizing that the power of that relationship um is massive. um Saturn sixth house, I have that, it's beautiful. I love Saturn sixth house. I think it just makes one very structured in their daily work, and yeah, just like very good organizational abilities. And Saturn Libra gives someone the ability to create, you know, like long lasting, fair, you know, responsible relationships, and lots of commitment. So, and also same goes for business partners. So like, I don't see anything in your chart that makes me think like, oh, I mean, the only thing is that all those Venus squares, you know, which interestingly, like, is the only planet that is ill aspected in your chart. I mean, you have that Sun square Chiron, and then you know the nodes, but like it's really Venus, so it's really about like, you know, Venus, you know, what you value, and you know, Venus and Capricorn, we can't lie, you know, Venus and Capricorn does love money, it does love material goods, but it's really ultimately the highest energy of Capricorn is honor. Think of like MLK. That's like what I always use is like the highest energy of Capricorn. It's just that responsibility, and then you put that with Aquarius, and it's like to the masses, to making a difference. And you have that power. Trust me. Like, it's a powerful chart. Um, so yeah, let's see what stars are going on here. But yeah, like I said, I'll kind of say this. I said this at the start. You know, North Node in a water sign in Cancer, not having any water like in your personal plants is a challenge. So you really have to like dig in, you know, and find ways to kind of work with that, you know. So let's see. I have to like look super close at all these. to see if there's any like fixed important fixed stars, and if you could see what I could see, you'd see a million, so many. Okay. Wow, interesting. So you have asteroid Lilith right stuck on your sun. So asteroid Lilith is about the it's like it's very tied to feminism, but it's not like you're a feminist necessarily. It's more about that energy of the woman that just is able to enter the man's world, which goes back to that thing I was saying earlier about like, maybe feeling more masculine or just like kind of that conflict between that like that need to be more in your feminine, even as a as a woman. But it's that woman who can really just work in the man's world, and who doesn't take shit from anyone. It's very, very like hard. Yeah, just like determined and just who just doesn't take shit and does things their own way. Um, okay, what's this one? I need to look this up because I have never seen this. I just add I always add asteroids and stars to my list or my lists. There's a lot of them. Um, and there's very little information. And I do have my own ideas, but I like to look and find it. Because child is on your midheaven, which child is about like inner innocence, right? Um, like the pure, raw, untouched. It's like we like to kind of hide it from the world. But this was so interesting about your chart. This ad was so interesting. Um, wow, this is crazy. So it's like the inner child that's frozen within us, which like the Cancer moon is really, or Cancer North Node is begging you for that, right? And the fact that's on your midheaven, it could indicate that like being a mother is super important to your dharma. But could also be, you know, just being able to to enact that inner child within your career, within your dharma, is extremely important. But also mainly because it opposes your IC, that something like I don't know. I'm sorry if I keep repeating psychology or something around that, but like, you know, something like where you're able through your dharma is not only career and work, it's just your outer big picture life, to kind of recoup that inner child, to really go in and and understand, the different fears and the different things from the childhood, that the answers to childhood issues, right? And doing that through like the unresolved emotions, like through the career, and of course you can do that on your own outside, outside of your career, but why not do both together? So okay. Mhm. And then lust is also on midheaven, so that typically makes one, it adds a level of attraction, um to someone in terms of like how they're seen by, like, let's say you were like a social media like superstar or something like that, like people would, lust creates like this real attraction. um yeah. So then, wow, lots of these. Okay, so I'm just gonna get them in my head and then go from there. So Alcyone, that's the grand central sun conjunct ascendant. So there's something with the eyes there. Sometimes people have like issues with their eyes. There can be like blindness. obviously, I'm guessing that's not the case. But yeah, this is like the Pleiades, right? So it's really about, luxury, but also lust can play an important part in the life, right? Um, it can be a little hedonistic at times, um, but also someone who likes to kind of like, dress well and um, enjoy the finer things in life. And yeah, sometimes they can be a little bit not like im impudent, I guess you could say, when it comes to their speech and yeah, a little cheeky. So the fact that you have it retrograde, your Mercury is gonna make you more shy. And then Hades, um on your ascendant is so interesting because Hades is it's very scorpionic. So, having that with you know Taurus, it's like this battle between staying the same and changing, staying the same and changing. It kind of pushes one into their shadow, like we've seen so many times um through this reading, right? So let me see one thing. Yeah, because it's the plant, it's the it's really very related to the underworld, right? It's very spiritual and powerful too, but it can also be, difficult and very scorpionic and very like about power, but it's once again about finding that power within. So it can be intimidating. Okay, moving forward, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. Okay, moon, nothing, nothing. Okay, so now we're not seeing anymore. Um, so Spica. Hmm. Spica is conjunct. Um, like I like Spica in Saturn. What does that do? So Spica is a great star, but Saturn, you never know. So what the ancients said, apt to be suspicious, sharp or rugged, um, but does much good, lots of occult interests, a very good speaker, which is interesting with your Mercury retrograde. And Spica is a very important star. It's it's top five important stars. It's like the Royal Four in Spica. Good speaker, popular, many friends, gained through legacies. So like that could be linked to like you know, uh inheritance or something, or marrying someone of means. And I already saw that, like with that sun in the midheaven, that's probably good for that also. So gain through legacies, but extravagant, good health, favorable for domestic matters. So it's, Spica is a beautiful, beautiful star. So that's awesome, and especially for the domestic matters. Okay, moving forward, descendant, we have got none. Jupiter, we got Cupido. So I'm just gonna say, like that's a very like you have a lot of very not like flirty, but like that kind of vibe of energy. Cupido is, but it's also very charming and very alluring. So yeah, um, yeah, it's like it can really like kind of trigger um like infatuation, like make people very infatuated by you, especially with lust also on an angle. And then when you have Juno in did we talk about Juno? you know, in Sag, I didn't even talk about Juno, like most important on the Galactic Center. It just reinforces that your ideal partner is someone who is most likely spiritual, but like who's someone born, probably most likely like either for someone who just who's able to enhance your philosophy, right? So a lot of times you see that with this type of placement, right? Um, especially with the Venus and ninth house Juno in the in Sag, you know, either someone from a different culture, um, but really someone with a common belief system or vision, who wants to like explore the world and learn with you, like like a kind of like a philosophical partner, you know. And also in the eighth house, it's like that desire for that intensity, and growth in relationships I've talked about so many times, and sharing resources and all that stuff. Now, and on the Galactic Center, I mean, I don't know, that's just like a very, very spiritual point. So it would just add to that. Okay, where is this one? So yeah, so Cupido, conjunct like Jupiter can trigger infatuation in you for someone or vice versa. So it can definitely um add that kind of um like it's like the asteroid of crushes, you know. So it can make someone just like very like very in large pursuit of romance, you know, especially, and it goes with that Venus square Pluto, especially like in the initial stages. But of course with your, you know, your Venus sign, um so it basically can make you like be a big cat, definitely a catch, like in the eyes of suitors if you're single, which I have no idea. um yeah, so nice. I mean, it definitely can add that charm also. Um, okay, moving forward, none here, none with Venus. I think we've gone through all of them. The 2 and 8s and none there. Okay, and then of course you have to finish it all off. You have Karma conjunct your Sun. Just like, come on, Karma conjunct your Sun. That's wild. Karma and Lilith. So it's just like your life is extremely, extremely ruled by karma. Um, you know, it sounds very simple, but like it just goes to show. I mean, you have so many squares with your nodes. It's not common to have it like that, and you know, this is definitely a really deep reading. Like, there's a lot that I went into here. Um, Very fascinating stuff. 2 hours 16. Holy shit. Anyways, whew, let me know about those other about, you know, the follow up if you want to do that. I'm gonna go sleep. Um, Definitely would do the follow up in the current astrology, but yeah, I've outlined everything. Super interesting chart. The best part about the follow up is that we're comparing your lived experience with what I said, because like that to me, it astrology is a puzzle, right? And I like to kind of showcase what I can do by not knowing anything about you, just talking, you know? So, yeah, I hope that this was everything you wished for and more. I gave it my all. I feel very good about this reading. There's lots of very intricate, kind of rare placements I saw in this. So, thank you. Thank you for your patience, and your patience is rewarded. Like, I guess subconsciously, I just spent a long time on this reading. So I wish you a happy day, night, morning, whenever you're watching this, and talk to you later. All right. Ciao.